Hello everyone, good morning. Welcome to the Swan. It's great that you're having your Community Champions meeting here. I've just told our kids upstairs all about it, and hopefully after this when you sort of break out and have a bit of conversations, it will give you good service, and hopefully you'll get a feel, an actual feel of what it is that we're trying to achieve here at the Swan and the Green Room College. Deej asked me yesterday, just said, oh, have you got 10-15 minutes just to sort of just tell them about what we're doing here? I was like, right, I could probably write a book about what's happened here and in the sort of green room history. So I thought this morning, I said, rather than just sort of rambling on, I'll just put some slides together, and then that kind of keeps me from straying off track, which I quite often do. So the story so far, I've gone sort of 2018 to 2023, although it actually sort of started as seeds of thought probably 2 or 3 years before that. And our kind of essence, if you like, at the Green Room is start of heart. That's because the majority of the people that we meet are people that have stopped doing anything. So we're just trying to encourage the start of something, whatever that is, and something that could be successful or something that could be unsuccessful, but that's okay, then you just start another path. That's the kind of purpose that we've done with all of our schools. So we have a school on Albert Street, which takes up to 16-year-olds, and we also have a school in a village called Kingsley, which is on a farm, which takes slightly younger kids up to 16 as well. But the essence is the same in all of our schools. So why? Why are we in a pub at the moment? And I think from what we'd learned up until, so we as a school have been around as a project since 2011 and as a sort of official school since 2013. What we found is that we get these young people who were quite often right on the fringes of education or not in education at all. We'd get them into a school environment which they could actually be in and then thrive in. And so it was quite a nurturing environment. We had on-site therapists and all that sort of stuff. Very great relationships between staff and pupils. They get the GCSEs. They sort of feel better about themselves. They're sort of mentally more healthy, physically more healthy. And then we go, right, off we go to college, and then we do this. And quite often, that transition, no matter how much we try and help that, hello Sid, it quite often went wrong. So going from the Green Room to Langley College is a huge gap. Like it's, there's 1,200 16-year-olds there. As much as the college can try, they don't have the resources to provide the sort of level of support for the SEN kids that we have. BCA is probably more successful at it because the environment that they're in, there's more open space and nature, and there's that sort of therapeutic element to it. But still, there's still 1,000 kids there, and teachers that don't necessarily have the time to be able to sort of provide a level of support that's needed. So there's a gap, and that gap, so after all that time that you're teaching kids and making that regenerative process with the child up to the age of 16, by the age of 17, they're back in their bedroom, or they're back on the street, or they're back doing whatever, and you just think, right, well, what sustainable good has been achieved there? Also, the world of work, and this isn't just true for the Green Room, this is true for any school really, was looking back at education and asking for something different. They're going, why? So we're getting kids coming out at 16, 18, 21 with degrees, A-levels, all that sort of thing, and we're having to train them from the beginning. Like some of them can't come out and butter a piece of toast. Like, they're not proactive enough in the workplace, they can't think for themselves, they don't have the initiative, there's no communication skills, all that sort of stuff. So the world of work was going, we'd like something a bit different, please. And actually, our education model in this country hasn't really adapted to that. It's trying. We're still doing A-levels and GCSEs and that sort of thing. There's a few more vocational qualifications coming out. T-levels are kind of going that way. But actually, what the world of work wants is transversal skills. Skills that means that you can sit around this table like you are today and communicate and come up with ideas and have initiative and think about the community. So we started creating a slightly different programme. And then finally, the decline of pubs in Britain was fracturing communities and creating a pandemic of loneliness. That's just that. There were statistics that charities were sort of bringing out, and from a person who's grown up in Windsor and lives in Dedworth, like there's just all the pubs just gradually disappeared throughout my lifetime. And I think when I was 18, we made it a mission amongst our friends to drink in every single pub, and I think it was like 130 or something ridiculous like that, if you took all the little bars and sports clubs as well. Now, we're in the west of Windsor, there's just nothing. Not quite nothing, I'll come back to that. So, thought a pub was a good idea to put a school into. Could we find a venue that could provide real life vocational opportunities for our students? Finding work experience for our pupils before this was very difficult. You put kids into a mechanics or a restaurant or something like that. The big corporations, the bigger businesses sort of don't just sort of say, oh, well, you crack on with it, and they don't really get much of a nourishing experience. The smaller ones sometimes are brilliant, but actually you'll end up, it's quite risky. If it goes wrong and it has an impact on their business, it's too much of a risk for a small business owner to take a punt on somebody who's needs a lot of support and another chance in life. So we were struggling with work experience. We also needed a place that we could have facility for classrooms and learning and qualifications. So then I looked at this place, started doing a business plan. I was going, right, to get the leasehold, and it was like, well, what's your cash flow forecast? What's your wet and dry sales and all that sort of stuff? And I'm going, right, I'm a drama teacher. So I called the brewery, because on the pub wall here, it was like, we proudly serve Windsor Lincoln Brewery. So I called the brewery and got through to Will Calvert, who's one of the founders and partners of the brewery, and said, oh, can you just tell me how much you sell your beer for? And he said, well, why? Where do you want it for? I said, I'm thinking about buying the Swan. He's like, are you? Why? I was thinking about buying the Swan, but it won't work as a pub. But I said, well, I want it for it to be a school. A school? Yeah, a school. Well, and a pub. A pub school? I was like, yeah. So I was like, right. So should we meet up? I was like, yes, we should. And then we did that. And through that connection, I didn't want to run a pub, but I did want to put a school in this. And he didn't want to run a pub that wasn't going to work, and it needed something more. He needed more than a pub, and actually he's very interested in the community hub style of things and all that kind of thing. So then we got to that. Then, I mean, this is where we could go on forever, so I won't. We managed to get it onto a freehold. We managed to, with the council, to put it onto an asset of community value, and then we put it out to the community to back us and then to invest. So this exists as 25% brewery, 25% the green room, and 50% the community. So so we sold shares for £1,000, and we have about 182 different shareholders in the pub. We also did a loan scheme where you could loan us some money at the very beginning, and then in 3 years' time we'd give you double your money in beer, which my dad did. He had a tooth that you did that as well. And you did that. Great, good. You were allowed up to £1,000. My dad did 999, and so £2 bar tab, which is now finished. So.
No more coffees on a Thursday.
Yeah, put it on my card. Card's done now. You finished it at New Year's Eve. Anyway. So then that's it. We've got the community, we've got the expertise of the brewery, the expertise of the school, and that's sort of the foundation of what we've got here. We chose here partly because it's very difficult. I mean, our school, our other school, is right next door to the Van Start Arms. I was looking at that going, well, we could just do that there. But actually, it's brewery owned, and the breweries weren't amenable to that. And there's something quite special about the Swan. It's been here for well over 200 years. It's got, the village of Clewer sort of predates the rest of Windsor. The history around here is magnificent. The houses on Mill Lane, and Marquita Tennant's house, it's just very rich, and obviously the church and our relationship with Reverend Rosie is very good. And you'd have got more trade if, at the same time, actually, the Trooper came up for sale. I was like, well, that's probably more, as a business, more profitable, and if you go to the Trooper now, it would have been. But actually, this side of Windsor, the west of Windsor, like it's got the Black Horse and the Prince Albert, and that's about it. You might know better than this. I was sort of looking at demographics. It's about 15,000 people in Dedworth West, Dedworth East, Clewer. Is that about right? Something maybe a bit more. 2 pubs for 15,000 people. That's when you don't have the connection. I know there's other things, and there's community centres and all that sort of thing, which is brilliant. But some people just like to come to a pub. And of course the Swan here has these kind of outbuildings which are good for our students, and then these are really well utilised by the community now. Just this week, so Windsor Cycle Hub were in here last night. We had a ukulele band up in the schoolhouse. We had cribbage going on in the pub. We have PTA groups in here, mindfulness, yoga, art. So in the daytime we use it as a school. In the evenings it's being really well utilised as these sort of outbuildings and that sort of thing. And for us, yes, it's about a 10-minute walk to our lower school as well, so the pupils can actually go between the two sites. So the last 4 years, we've come quite a long way. This is sort of what it looked like when we took it on. In fact, it was a lot worse because it was full of junk. And the first weekend when we got the keys, we opened the gates, 200 community members came in and they went, right, what do you need us to do? And it was incredible. Stuff is thrown out the windows, people putting things in the back of their car and driving them to the tip. Probably shouldn't say that, but that's we cleared the whole place and found lots of interesting historical things along the way. That's what we ended up having to do for the pub and the kitchen and, well, most of the building, because it was full of wet rock, dry rock, all that sort of thing. We basically had to rip it right back to its rafters, replace a lot of the rafters. It was a huge renovation project, which is obviously still going. And now it looks like this. And hopefully today, if you haven't sort of seen the guts of the Swan, if you like, you've all signed in as a school visitor, so you're welcome to come in and, if you'd like a little tour of the place and see the sort of the schoolhouses and the tech suite upstairs, you'd be welcome to do that in sort of small groups. Because today, all the kids are downstairs, and the schoolhouse, the classroom, is their staff room now. That's kind of how today works. And in the kitchen, they'll be cooking, and in the bar, they're serving, and all that sort of thing. This only finished at Christmas, the kitchen was only finished in May, and the stables were only finished in September. So there's still, and then none of it's really finished. We're working on Project Cowshed at the moment, which will make that outside area nice. And then there's 7 bedrooms upstairs that are still just completely untouched. Well, not untouched, they've been stripped, they're back to their bare roots, so we can see all the problems that are there, but there's quite a lot of renovation still to be done.
And what would they turn into?
Well, we'd like them to be bedrooms, so there'll be a B&B on the first floor, but actually on the top floor there's 3 little sort of attic rooms with a shared bathroom, and just from experience, we've had a lot of looked after children that sort of go in between foster placements and that sort of thing. I'd like there to be a possibility of either some respite care or somebody who is sort of breaking into adulthood, wants to move out, could live there, work there, get a tenancy reference then, an employer's reference, get some independent skills. So that might be a top floor sort of plan, but we're still quite a long way away from that. And yes, and the money's obviously been quite difficult with that. The kitchen, we spent our budget on the pub, the schoolhouse, and just getting it trading. And then we ran out, so the kitchen had a very, very small budget. Myself and Lexi from the school project managed it and did it with a group of volunteers. So the weekday warriors, and they came in and worked tirelessly for what was a point at the end of the day. Like, sit, come here. So that became that. Then what do we do here? I couldn't, that's quite a complicated thing. I'll just show you some sort of visuals. Our timetable for the sixth form, which this was even before it was really here. We did something called the Master's Edge, which is about sort of project-based learning. And we actually started doing International Baccalaureate and started teaching that because we liked that better than A-levels. There's something really quite good about the IB, but it's a very difficult thing to deliver. And it kind of grew. We've done A-levels, tried. That's actually, you put in quite a lot of effort for not much kind of output really at the end. But we did a business, bit of English lit. But really we were trying to sort of life skills, employability and work experience and community service. That was kind of where we were trying to move towards. And it sort of grew bigger. the GCSEs sort of cut down just to English and maths, and it became a choice. The A-levels went, the IB went. We basically stripped it of all different qualifications. We brought in more physical exercise, more community, more mental health. The stable one there is our therapy rooms, so all the kids have access to counselling. And it just kept growing. And we brought Epic Thursdays, which is where you are today, and that's a thing that the kids have started themselves just before the pandemic. And then we didn't have a kitchen, so we were serving food out of the van, and we had a fire-based pizza oven and all that sort of stuff. And now it's this. So we do all sorts. We've got year 12s and year 13s here. We've got a lot more work experience opportunities. The things that you'll see our pupils doing today are challenging for them at the beginning of year 12. By the end of year 12, we start close and then just end up sort of stepping away. And basically the club is essentially run by the kids by the end of the summer term. And then the year 13s now are managing those new year 12s. So we're getting that sort of pull through of independent learning. So the opportunities have grown, and yeah, as I say, we've been doing transversal skills.
So sorry to bother you. So
Okay.
for Helen, really briefly. So I'm not sure.
Sorry, Helen.
I'm here for Helen, really
Oh,
briefly.
okay.
So sorry to interrupt. We need the doggy back in.
We're building rockets. This thing that you've seen on every slide that's what we do now. So taking away all those qualifications, it's not a qualification, it's a program that we've created. ROCKET stands for Resilience, Organisation, Community, Communication, Initiative and Teamwork. That's what we base everything on. We've got 21 students and 9 staff at the moment. The majority of our pupils, as I said, were just not in education at all before they joined us, and the pandemic had a huge kind of impact on that. We're 90% neurodiverse. It's Neurodiversity Celebration Week at the moment, and we've just had a very neurodiverse time upstairs, but trying to sort of flip the perspective on that from the kids' point of view, who struggle when they get a diagnosis, but then now also into sort of the wider community view of it. So the problem with work experience is when you say, oh, well, I have a young person, they're autistic, so they have certain needs, they go, oh, I don't know about that. Trying to change that perception. And actually the community response to that has been superb, and especially on an Epic Thursday. We get a lot of regulars that come in and now know all the kids by name and all that sort of thing, and it just builds that confidence and work skills so that they can actually go out and do better jobs in other businesses and that sort of thing. And whenever we meet a new work experience opportunity, this is a main part of Deeja's job, meet us here, get an understanding of what this is, and then actually you're more likely to open your door to an opportunity outside of here. All of our staff live in Windsor, and our students are becoming more local, but actually the way it works in a slightly difficult system at the moment, which has been looked at by government, we have kids from RBWM, but also from Slough, Surrey, Woking, Bracknell. We work with quite a lot of different councils. I'm trying to encourage our kids in the sixth form to be within this community, because actually once they finish school, they have this place as a pub they go to more than anything else. And that was inspired by an old pupil that's now 25 and working at the pub. He used to have to pay an organisation to take him to the pub. I was like, how does that make him feel? Because we'd never go into a Wetherspoons or something like that. But actually now some of our alumni come here, have their 18th, their 21st here. It's a social place for them to enjoy. And the future is still what it was at the very beginning, started path. I think that's me, John. Oh, and this is with the Swan. So the Swan Community Interest Company is what owns this, and that's what we are part of. And right from the very beginning, when me and Will were standing up in the brewery and trying to sort of encourage support, this was our mission, to put the heart back into the community of Clwyd and more widely in Windsor by developing the Swan as a community hub for Clwyd, as a pub, a cafe with food, an event venue, education, accommodation, which we're not there yet, small businesses, which we hope to sort of promote a little bit more within our stables and running it from here, and then social good. And that hasn't changed since 2018, and that's still our sort of mission there.
Excellent. Well done.
All right.
Clap, clap, clap.
Okay.